lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and
He missed the complete that. He's crazy
Side by
stuff.
side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through, he tags Richard Eck.
The lap record at the Nürburgring Nordschleife is 6 minutes and 11 seconds. It's held by Stefan Beloff, who drove a Porsche 956 prototype to achieve this stunning feat. And though this time was set in the 80s by a sports car, and that's what we're running today, an 80s sports car, expect the Nissans to lay down lap times even faster than that real-world record. It's going to take some guts and some skills, as we'll find out who's got it as we get ready to watch round 1 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, the green hell is already tough enough, but today we've got multi-class racing taking place around here.
Oh, yeah, we do, Joe, and welcome to Germany. We are here and ready to get it on. Built in the mid-20s, the Nürburgring was originally 2 circuits, the 7.7-mile southern loop and the 14-mile northern loop, which is the one you see on the screen today, which hosted the original German Grand Prix. Now in '82, the Southern Loop fell victim to modern safety concerns, and that's why they put the GP circuit down there. But we're not going to concern ourselves with that today. We're going to look at this 12.9 miles, 20.8 kilometers, 154 turns to get around Green Hell. Why don't we hop on board for a very abbreviated lap with the GSRC lap guide here around the Nürburgring.
All right, we've got Clayton McLeod and the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Coming up to the north curve, you've got to be careful not to outbrake yourself with a dip in elevation. Now, we've got to shorten the lap since we don't have time for a full one. Jumping up to high oaks, these are corners that are extremely important to your lap time. Get a poor exit and it'll compromise your speed on this long stretch. Be careful up and over fluke plots because the car will get light here and you want it nice and planted through this double apex right-hander. A little farther down the road is the Swedish Cross, which is flat out in the Nissan. But you've got to stay to the left side of the track to set up for the best line into Ehrenberg. Even though you've got a lot of banking through here, you need to be very careful getting back to the throttle so as not to spin the car. Skipping the valley, out in our forest presents a very tricky sequence of corners. Each one is slower than the next, so trying to bleed off speed while keeping grip can certainly feel pretty hairy. Ideally, you want to set yourself up for the best run into and out of the final right-hander so that you can get a launch down to Metzgefeld. We're going to go past that to the Spiegel curve, where you got to feather the throttle, then hold the left and swing it into miss-hit-miss. That middle apex is the important one, but be sure not to understeer wide into the barrier before Defense Valley. This downhill braking zone is one of the scariest on the track. A quick kink into a slow corner with no runoff means a small problem can become a big one before you know it. But up ahead, we're now braking for Bergwerks. You're going to be climbing uphill with your foot flat to the floor for a long, long time, so be sure to set up your exit properly and don't hesitate too much with your right foot. At the top of the hill is Stahlstrecke, which, if you're brave, can offer a place to pass. It's very tough to keep the car tucked in through here, and I find it frustrating to hit that middle ground just right. From off the corner, it's another short climb, and then you're at the infamous carousel. Line up from the outside of the track and swing it down in. Letting it drift out of the concrete banking and feeding onto the throttle will take a lot of trial and error to find the limit. Across the top of the hill, the entry to Ashbrook may catch a few drivers out if they forget about the understeer. Then you're plunging down into the double apex left, making sure to hug the inside on the exit for a better entry into Brüchen. Then you've got Flansgard, where once again the car will get incredibly light right before a very important fast turn. This section will be all about threading the needle and going as fast as you dare. Jumping ahead, the braking for Swallowtail often causes a car or two to lose the rear end and wallop the barriers. You'll want to make sure you slow up in time for the left-hander and then be patient with the throttle. The Mini Carousel is a smaller, similar version to its bigger brother, where you just want to drift off that concrete at the end. And then Gallows Hill is going to test the mettle of every driver because this patience-trying right-hander tempts you into trying to go through it flat out. Problem is, a late lift is going to hurt you enormously now that you've hit the Dottinger Hohe. You won't be lifting the whole way past the castle until Tiergarten. Keep your right foot pinned, and then be sure not to brake too hard into Hohenrad, or else you'll lose the car. Finally, there's the street course-like turn 13, and if you've kept it together, you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring. And amazingly, that lap guide is just barely over half of what you're going to experience in a lap around here at the Nürburgring. So expect to see quite a bit of action out there and a lot of excitement. Now, a regularly scheduled broadcast with the Kamel GT Championship is Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, but we're live today due to technical difficulties with yesterday's broadcast. We at GSRC apologize for missing yesterday's race, and we're glad to be with you today. We want to thank the Kamel GT community for their support and being willing to reschedule for a Sunday broadcast. And Sean, I don't know about you, but I'm curious to see how many drivers we're going to have left at the end of this thing, with us having 33 of them start the race.
Well, I actually hung in and watched that race that we were going to broadcast yesterday, and the attrition wasn't bad. I mean, we only lost maybe about 6 or 7 cars in what was a full field, because that event actually split yesterday. There were 2 splits for the Kamel race, and honestly, after reading on the forums last night, there's a few guys that are actually kind of happy that we were running again today, because they wanted a second shot at it. A little redemption here today for some of the drivers.
You can see Leno Luoto out there trying to get a practice lap in. They probably won't even be able to finish a complete lap before this warm-up finishes. They have already finished qualifying, and we'll get to that in a bit. They do have not a full warm-up lap, obviously. They are starting behind the pace car, but that will begin out on the Dardenne Hoa as we watch, already seeing cars in practice up against the Armco there as we watch Kim Eriksson from Finland. So this track, certainly known for being punishing, known for being long, takes quite a while just to memorize, let alone be able to be fast here. So it's sometimes considered the ultimate test of a driver, the ultimate racetrack ever created and to be attempted. And we're glad to have it here on the iRacing service in its virtual form, about as accurate as you can possibly get. Andrew Backey was, of course, just a moment ago getting on the radio saying he's another one, Sean, who's thankful that he's able to get on the broadcast because he couldn't make yesterday. So glad to see Andrew, who's a regular here, be able to get on air.
Yeah, and there were a couple. He wasn't the only one. There were a couple drivers actually in that same situation. So, again, a bit of a do-over. Joe, we got a huge field on tap for the viewers. Say 33 cars, 17 Audis, 16 Nissans, and some of the very best here. I'm actually a little amazed at some of the names I'm seeing right now. Joni Hagner, of course, is back. But this is going to be fun. It's breakneck speed. You're always on the edge here, and tragedy can happen at just the slightest mistake. We've turned a lot of laps here, Joe, and I think you know this track just about as good as anybody. There literally is that old cliche phrase. There is tragedy around every corner. I don't think there's ever been a place more true than that here.
I would agree with that. And as we let this last minute tick by, one thing we should mention is this is not a timed race like they normally do in the Kamel GT. If you're used to watching this series, it is going to be a 7-lap race here today. Now, what strikes me about that, Sean, is that usually the lap difference between these cars is great enough that the Audis get lapped multiple times. Now, here they're only going to get lapped once, judging by what we're seeing on the lap times, about a minute difference between them. Even still, I expect that to be a very hairy proposition with the Audis trying to get past the Nissans trying to get past the Audis.
Yeah, I hope it happens on Dardenne der Hoa. Again, I did get to watch that race yesterday, and on that very last lap, that's exactly when the Nissans got there and had to try and come through, and it wasn't on Dardenne der Hoa. It was well before that, really up on the mountain. And it's going to get pretty tricky because the Nissans, they want to get through. I expect there'll be a pretty tight battle up there today with John Hill, Clayton McLeod, all kinds of guys here. Nick Bucanos, Keith Ritchie. who won that race yesterday. Keith was flying around this joint. So with the checkered out coming out now for practice, it's about time to go racing.
And go to our grid. Tapani Lenaluoto is going to be starting on the pole today. Let's see if Richie can repeat. Kim Erickson is going to be starting in third, and the outside of row 2 will be Rob Olenek. Ronnie Nunez will be in fifth with Jamie Hall starting in the sixth position. P7 will go to Nick Mucano, so you mentioned earlier. Clayton McLeod in our lap guide. He'll start in eighth today, just ahead of John Hill, who will begin in ninth. Rounding out the top 10 will be Antti Visas, and then John Keefe, who we just saw race in the Lotus 79s, will begin in 11th. Lur Hughes is in 12th, followed by Jerry Farrakolb, excuse me. Starting 13th, Francesco Roca in 14th, and Xinyan Kai in 15th. The last of the Nissans is going to be Christopher Matherly.
Okay, let's start talking about the Audis in the GTO class. It's Yoni Agner on the pole. Billy Ruola there in second. George Gruber going to start third. Lars Hung in 20th. Andy Purrs. Lars Hung in fourth in the number 20. Andy Purrs starting fifth today. Ben Laughter there right alongside in sixth. Philip Blake making his return in seventh. Andrew Backey, eighth. Cesar Taron will start ninth. Juoco Lascala will start 10th. Hideki Koivitso 11th. Mitch Carr 12th. Gordon Anderson 13th. Frederick Pauvert will start 14th. Don Good 15th. Andy Bell 16th. And Marcelo Aiello will start at the very back in 17th.
There you can see the cars winding their way up towards the start-finish line, which here will be just after turn 13, after Tiergarten and Hohenrauen, as they come off the dotting Urhoa. So they're going to go right into the twisty bits, and the cars will have to get themselves sorted out up at the front. You see that Mercedes and that Jaguar silk cut machine. There's a bit of controversy for the qualifying because Linda Luoto got a little bit better weather conditions than some of the other guys, but as they get the green, we'll see if that makes a difference here in the race. Accelerating away, he gets a good jump over Keith Ritchie. Behind him, a few cars side by side as they come down into the north curve, one of them being Clayton McLeod just beside Nicholas Mucano, so they're not giving up, still side by side. Finally sorted out. Let's go to the Audis.
George Gerber with big trouble coming up into the twisty bits. Got it all backed up there. He gets into the wall, spun around. Everybody else getting by just barely. Juco Lascala having trouble getting by him. I think he might have picked up a little bit of damage. Up front, though, they've broken away here and off to a decent start.
Gordon Anderson with a bit of trouble getting the car into gear and almost got run into by Juco Lascala. Thankfully, they didn't manage to make contact. But as you said, Hagner leading the way and mostly single file there through the Audis. Already our Nissan so far ahead that Linda Luoto is hitting the Swedish cross just now, gapping over Ritchie at about 0.7 of a second. And they plunge down into the valley that includes the foxhole and compression. They're starting to gap Kim Erickson, 1.4 between Ritchie and that third place driver. That will be useful to those two if they start fighting here early on.
Joe, back here in the GTOs, Yoni Hagner really got off to a tremendous start. Already finds himself 2 seconds ahead of Ruola, who has Andy Purrs making his way up there. Those three connected, Purrs, Laughter, and Ruola. Nice little battle for the three of them. They've broken away from 5th place. And that Lars Hung following Cesar Terron, trying to take that 5th place from him.
In fact, Hung's got Philip Lake close behind him as well as these four get squeezed together down into Aldenauer Forst. Andrew Backey on the tail as well as Mitch Carr. I think we got a little bit of plug in the bottle with Tyrone up at the start of it. Have to imagine, Sean, a few drivers will be finding themselves in that position where even if you're much faster than the car ahead, it can be difficult to find a way by.
Right, exactly, because, well, let's face it, every driver has a little bit different idea of how they like to get around here, and boy, it's really hard to predict where somebody's going to end up on track when they manage one of these turns.
Ooh, John Keefe was getting awful close to John Hill up in the Nissans. This is for 9th position. He has to back off, and that puts him back into the clutches of Antivisas. These cars now starting to head uphill once again, climbing their way through Kesselchen. You can see Keefe really lost a ton of momentum trying to get up behind Hill. And now Visas using that draft. Wow. Hughes looking a little wobbly behind them and gathers it back together. In a fast place like this, you do not want to get squirrely. Second place, also up for grabs. Looks like Kim Erickson managing to squeeze ahead of Keith Ritchie. Did he touch the wall somewhere? We're seeing a little bit of damage on his car. Oh, he went wide at Bravery Corner. He actually went into the Armco.
He did, Joe. Yep.
We're looking at the replay.
It didn't feel good. He's actually got heavy damage on that car after this.
Is it flat out through there, Sean, in the Nissan?
Pretty much. Maybe just a little bit of lift. Maybe he just missed the turn-in right there. Now, that's the thing. If you miss the turn-in just a little bit, it's hard to reel it back in, even if you're lifting.
Had another car with a problem. Christopher Matherly at the back of the Nissans. He's gotten in the way of the Audis just before the carousel. Turned himself around, getting to the power too soon, coming out of Stahlstrecke.
You know, I don't know if we mentioned it or not. Another issue, Joe, is 105 degrees on track. Pretty slick here to get started.
I would not want to be driving in those conditions. Let's jump up to 6 because Ronnie Nunez is on the tail of Jamie Hall here in the Nissans. Whoa! Nunez, way too much curb coming through the Beloff S's. That is a lucky man right there.
Yes, indeed.
Backs off a little bit from the rear of Hall, gives him some breathing space. They're just behind Rob Olenek, who's sitting in 4th. Amazingly, despite his damage, Keith Ritchie still holding on to that 3rd place.
Yeah, well, apparently it didn't hurt the suspension. He's got a little bit of aero damage, but it's still pointing in the right direction, and ultimately that's what you need.
Oh, he's missing a lot of top speed. He's doing 260 kilometers an hour. Here comes Olenek. He's doing 290 right now.
Well, that's where he's hurt then, obviously.
It's going to be a long day at the office for Keith Ritchie on any long straight over the course of this track, and there are a few. Wow, look how quick he's slipping down. Ronnie Nunez in 6, already sizing him up. Philip Blake is showing he might have some problems.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick that up right now. Oh, and he just slid off the track, Joe.
Let's look at that replay.
Was it out of Flansgarten, I think?
That was just after Flansgarten. It looks like, ooh.
Looks like he might have tried to correct and maybe overcorrected, and he is really having trouble getting the car going again. In fact, he had to take the tow. That's not going to help. That'll be an ender for him. But the GTOs are now coming down, dotting their hole.
Hagner still leads the way, an entire 6 seconds over Andy Pears in 2nd position right now.
Who just overtook Villarreola to get that spot.
Now they slow the cars up, heading into Tiergarten and into Hohenrad. Behind Rolla, Laughter starting to threaten, getting up under the spoiler of that Audi Quattro. You know, the interesting thing about Lake was that he didn't actually hit anything that hard. I mean, he banged the Armco a little bit, but I think it was just he couldn't get the car turned around the way he wanted and figured it was safer and easier to just take the tow.
We've got two cars having to come in. It's Andrew Backey and Juco Lascala, both coming in the pits here.
Well, that's disappointing to see. That's going to set them back well down the order, as they weren't too far past the mid-pack in the Audis. Looking through the field to see what cars are close.
Christopher Matherly off course and into the wall, and then I think he disqualified, actually.
Well, they don't have an incident limit in this series, so I don't believe he would have been disqualified, but we've got a battle on screen for third place. This is Laughter and Ruola. The draft once again offering an opportunity, but Laughter thinks better of it. Cannot stay flat out on these Audis through the Swedish Cross. These two very much bottled up behind Andy Pears in that second position. After looking quite antsy to try and get past the fin of Vili Ruola.
Keep hearing that turbo chirp. Chirp, 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 chirp.
Certainly not the birds out here in the Eifel Mountains. Look at how close up he's getting behind him. I think he took a little bit too much curb there. Laughter has to back off. One of these few tracks, Sean, that the curbs are very old school. They're not just flat and allow you to climb all over them.
Yeah, no, you gotta watch yourself a little bit, especially as you come down the mountain, Joe. Obviously, you've got all that forward momentum going, and those curbs can wreak havoc on a car real quick.
Seventh in the prototypes was a little bit close. Keefe was getting up to Clayton McLeod, but has now dropped back. They're already up the hill, hitting into Style-Strecke. McLeod trying to square things off. Drifted a little wide through that long right-hander. You can see how that's allowed Keefe to close. Now into the infamous carousel. Oh, and Keefe just misses out, slips outside the banking, somehow gets it back in. Usually you can't do that. Once you're out, you're out.
You're out. Good move by Keefe there to save it.
But this has brought Lur Hughes onto his tail. Here up to Hoa Ak, the highest point on the track, and then they head back downhill towards Vipperman. Hughes can smell blood in the water. Oh, we had a problem with Francesco Rocca a little bit farther back.
Yeah,
this was also in Hoa Ak.
Yeah, it was, Joe, and Rocca just misses it, man. He got it a little bit too hot there.
Almost saved it, but once he went over that curb, yeah, it was up in the air, and you can see he clattered that Armco rather hard.
Yeah, and he's maybe just crabbing a little bit right now. It's going to be tough to wheel it back around to the pits.
He's got about a minute over Joni Hagner, thankfully, so he's not in any danger of being run over by the field of Audis at this point. We should note that as we watch this battle for P3, we don't have to go to it, but Laughter did get past Ruola for third place. Oh, in the meantime, pass for position. That's Nunez getting past Hall.
Yeah, Nunez just looked like he was... Oh, and you know what? It was actually Hall made a little bit of a mistake. Car got a little tight on him. A little wiggle out of it. Lost the grip, and that allows Nunez to get by.
Coming out of the mini carousel. Meanwhile, Hall screams past Nunez on the Dardinger Hoa. I wonder if Ronnie's got a little bit of damage of his own, or if that's just the power of the draft.
Power of the draft, Joe. Power of the draft, baby.
So those two swap back and forth. 7th, 8th, and 9th very close as well. That's McLeod, Keefe, and Hughes. Cars flying in at 180 miles an hour here once they get to Tiergarten and Hohenrad before they have to hit the brakes and slow it up. completing yet another lap. 5 to go still. We've barely touched this race.
True, we have. Yoni Hagner has been the class of the field back here in the GTOs. Very, very comfortable lead for him right now, Joe. But we are at Green Hell. And is any lead comfortable? I don't think so. The real work is being put in by Andy Pers, Ben Laughter, Derek Lola, and Cesar Terron in the GTO class. They got a really, really good battle going now. It's a little bit broken up here. We've got one of the Nissans there in the middle, Jerry Forthold, the Pennsylvania driver, driving a very badly very badly damaged Nissan right now. I'm trying to look at the sponsor, Donkey Bop Racing, on that car.
All right.
It's a new one for me.
Well, I went back to look, and Jerry somehow did it on the climb up to through Kesselchen. Seems to have grabbed a curb a little bit too much. The car got out from under him. As we see a change position with Laughter overtaking Pers on the Dottie Norho. I think we're going to see this a lot today. Pers coming back at him.
These two at it again. No.
Ducks back in line, but he's going to run out of track before he gets a chance to try and slingshot past one more. Behind them, it seems like Roll is starting to lose a little ground, though.
And that's okay for Cesar Terron. He would rather catch up to Ruola, give himself a chance to go up there and get Andy Pers and Ben Laughter.
Kind of all on his own there in 5th place at the moment. Doesn't have to worry about Lars Hongen at 4 seconds back.
He's picked up 8 spots, Joe. I mean, he is consistently moving forward.
Meanwhile,
Mitch Carr with big trouble. Oh, ouch.
So we look at the replay. Let's see if we can figure out what happened. This is coming down the Dottie Norhoa. Oof. Gosh, I've seen more problems with the curbs here than I think any other series I've ever watched race at the ring. It was an expired engine for Carr, hence the tow.
Yeah. Well, the Audi doesn't need any help getting out of shape, Joe.
This is true.
Yeah.
Needs all the grip that four-wheel drive can offer as we jump back up to Ericsson, sitting in 2nd right now. Inherited it when the car of our 2nd place Keith Ritchie had some trouble. Ritchie all the way back down to 6th, seems to have settled into a position where he's not losing any more places finally.
One of the drivers coming on the radio in almost a desperate plea, saying it's so stressful here.
It is. If you are pushing a car in any form or fashion.
Don Good turned around in the middle of the track here. Not sure exactly what happened to him, but stationary for quite a bit there. He also having trouble getting his Nissan going again.
Oh, you know what? I think we've seen our first victim of the day of fluke plots.
Yeah.
Let's watch on board. Looks like he just landed awkwardly and did not have control of the car, which you really need into that double right-hander.
Yeah, on this replay, you'll see where he loses it and it just slides off back across the track. Hideki Koivitso going to come by while he sits there.
There's
like
not many... go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it. He had trouble getting the car going again there.
There's not many cars on the iRacing service you can actually get airborne over that portion. So it both kind of delights and frightens me that the Audi manages to get a little hop over there. Meanwhile, Jamie Hall also running into trouble.
Big trouble, Joe.
He's going to hand that spot over to Nunez, who was pressurizing him at that time. Hall got into the power a little too quickly. And then Ericsson, we're hearing also, at the same time, going through Flansgarden, the rear came out.
Yeah, it did, and he hits not hard, but hard enough to get a little damage on the right rear wing.
This seems in sharp contrast to what you were describing yesterday, Sean.
Yeah, and like I said, drivers were really focused and all over it today. Maybe not so much. It's been a little bit of a free-for-all here.
Well, let's give a quick rundown of the top 5 of each of our classes since they have severely shuffled. Tapani Linuluoto still leads, having started from the pole in the prototypes. Rob Olenek has inherited that second place now after the trouble we've seen from Ericsson. Nunez, of course, overtake him as well. He's sitting in the final podium spot. Ericsson slots down into 4th, just behind, about 3 seconds back. And then the driver who started in 2nd, we thought that maybe would be able to challenge the Finn of Linuluoto, Keith Ritchie, is in 5th. He's gained 1 spot from Hall's problems.
Okay, your top 5 in the Audi GTO class. Joni Hagner is still kind of running away from it. He's got now almost an 18-second advantage on 2nd place. Andy Purrs, who's got his hands full right now. His hands and his mirror are full of Ben Laughter in 3rd. Dele Ruola slipped up just a little bit there, but still very much in 4th and still very much part of this battle. Now, the man we want to talk about, though, in 5th, Cesar Terron, continues his assault on this track. He's had good pace. He's picked up 9 spots and is still moving forward. Ruola only about 3 seconds, just a little over 3 seconds ahead of him. Certainly doable as we see Terron kind of get off the was off the track there a moment ago. We didn't see it, but yeah, he's having a good run here. Not many mistakes from that driver yet.
Speaking of mistakes, I see that Clayton McLeod has been caught by Lur Hughes. Now, I don't think it was a mistake that brought him up towards him. This is for 7th in the prototypes. Went back and looked, and it seemed like maybe a difference in speed on the Dottinger Hoa that allowed him to gain. They're coming up to the Swedish cross. Hughes dropping back just a little bit. Oh, and way wide. Oh! Clayton McLeod with a lot of problems getting it woed up, and that is just going to hand it over on a silver platter to Lur Hughes. Hughes lacking top end. Oh!
Watch out.
McLeod causing everybody to cover their eyes down in compression. He's got the top end over him, but just had no place to do anything with it. Hughes now starts to streak away, puts himself at a safe arm's length. That battle for 2nd over in the Audis, though, continuing as they're now on the Dottinger Hoa.
Yeah, they are, Joe, and just hit the kink. Laughter trying to get a run at Purrs, but it's just not there. Gonna have to start getting on the brakes now. Ruola doing a really, really good job, just being patient, hanging back there, watching these two go at it. Laughter runs right up on him there. Ooh, that was a tap. I'm there.
Definitely a hello, making sure that that yellow machine of Andy Pears knows that he is not going away. These 3 have been stuck together the entire race. This is to sort out the last of the podium. Pears has been dealing with things quite well so far.
Podium here is a badge of honor indeed.
Make their way up towards High Oaks. Laughter much closer to Pears than Ruola is to Laughter. We've seen one car get squirrely up and over Flugplatz as they now come up to that infamous jump. What will these cars do? All 3 navigating it safely. Then comes another long stretch before they break down for the Swedish cross. Laughter a bit of a ways back, probably not going to get close enough for a pass here. He is going to close in, though. Braking for Ehrenberg. Every corner, Laughter just eyeing and prodding and seeing what's feasible.
I'll say it again, I think Ruolo's got the best seat in the house, Joe.
I agree. That is the popcorn position for sure.
He's just far enough back that if they get into something, he has just enough time to react to it.
After looking so much stronger on the brakes, if he can find a corner wide enough, if he can run good enough, he can maybe try to send one up the inside. Let's look at him climb all over the back of Peres. Of our 33 starters, 26 are left running on the track. McLeod.
He just got overtaken by Antivisas. Oh, no, McLeod. Oh, it was actually McLeod. I'm sorry. Visas gets around because McLeod has trouble. Yeah.
He's hit the wall. I think that's going to be a tow. Looks to me... Oh, I think... Oh, it was out of Vipperman, yeah.
Maybe he was just hot getting out of Vipperman. Maybe a tap of the brakes. It looks like it sent him right off the track into that Armco.
And a little bit down the line as we come back live. He hit the wall once again, coming down into Brunchen. And with that slap of the wall and more damage to the car, he decided enough was enough. He is now in the pits. Lenaluoto has been leading since the drop of the green. Here, if you're just joining us, this is round one of the iRacing Kamel GT series. Oh, well, Lenaluoto, though, has his own problems. Proving to not be a perfect race. That's going to lose some time, but Olenek was not close enough to capitalize. Those brakes are powerful, but you still cannot outbrake yourself.
Side-by-side laughter and purrs. I'm sorry, Joe. Oh, they made contact and able to... They both saved their cars. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in, but it was almost tragedy there.
We're going to look at the replay. Purrs not expecting to him be able to sneak that car in. Just look at that. Both of them keeping it on track. Banging doors like this was NASCAR.
And that's about full speed right there, Joe, where they were.
These machines able to get up as high as 150, 160 miles an hour. Larry Hughes of the prototypes has headed into the pits. Jamie Hall's followed him in.
Oh, and that's because center punch there, Lur coming up on Jamie. And
it was quite a while ago that this incident seemed to have happened, that I'm seeing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Juco Lascala. It was not with Jamie Hall. It was with, Lur got into the Audi. Lascala was slow on track, and Jamie didn't know which way he was going to go. I'm sorry, not Jamie. Lur didn't know which direction he was going, and he just nailed him.
With us trying to keep track of all the cars having incidents, every time it seems we've come back to this battle for second. Has certainly been the most exciting in this race. Although I'm seeing, we don't have to go to it, that Ericsson and Nunez fairly close together for third in the prototypes. If that gets closer, I'll give a shout. We'll head over there, but right now, I don't want to take our eyes off of Purrs in case Laughter has another go.
Yeah, it's been hard for me to get off that battle. I got to be honest with you, Joe. It's a pressure cooker.
We ride just hanging out the passenger window of Ruola, who's surprisingly caught up to Laughter now. In the past, he's been hanging back, as you mentioned. They break and slow for Swallowtail, swinging through the right and then taking it up and over the left. That dips them down into the mini carousel. Now Laughter starts to find his feet, gains ground, and big slip up from Villaruola causes him to lose a ton of ground at a crucial point in the lap when you want to get the draft. On board with the Commodore Audi of Ben Laughter, taking advantage of that hole punched in the air by Andy Purr's yellow machine. Look at him weave on the track, trying to break it. Rola's getting a whiff of it. He's closing in, but he had lost so much time. I'm not sure if he's going to gain enough before the end of this stretch.
Yeah, he'll catch it, but just like you said, he's going to run out of stretch here to get to. Oh! Laughter's around, and so is Purrs.
Into the wall goes Laughter. Purrs trying to keep it from running into it. He manages to straighten it out, but not before losing time. Rolla slows it up to avoid both of them. Laughter letting the position go. Damaged car most likely, but there goes Rolla off the track. Tries to gather it back together. Laughter, as we come to replay, Laughter is into the pits.
See the contact between Laughter and Purrs there on the replay. It's Ruola who just gets through. And then you'll see right up here as we stay with it. Ruola just going to miss. Just disaster right there.
We're going to watch on board Ruola who gets a front. You kept talking about that front row seat, Sean. Here you go.
This is crazy. He doesn't have a clue where to go. Purrs still drifting. He
Through the smoke, too. And then he's not sure how damaged the Commodore of Laughter is, so he has to take it easy. And unfortunately, he's offline. You can see him clattering over these curbs, brings it back, and continues on. Now, Pears did not hit anything other than Laughter's car, so he did not head into the pits like Laughter did.
Cesar Teyron's hard work has paid off, Joe. He is the beneficiary of all that, up to third.
Taking advantage, but unfortunately, in this case, it was Laughter, the one saying A2, having to go in for repairs and is slipping down the order quickly. Now, did something happen to Tapani here? Because Olenek has run him down. Coming through the mini carousel. They're going to complete another lap. 3 to go. Are these Nissans sensitive to under tray damage if you go off course, Sean?
Yeah, they are, and I'm wondering if maybe he did pick up just a little bit of damage, Joe. Certainly easy to do here. We've seen a lot of offs so far.
Oh, and Andy Pears.
Oh, boy.
We'll go to him in a second. We'll stay on this battle. As Olenek closes in, let's see if he can get by. But just to update you, Andy Pears has wrecked and has taken a tow. Up to Tiergarten they go. Olenek now putting the pressure on, seeing if he can squeeze around that Mercedes. No dice, unfortunately. Let's see if we can go back to a replay to Pears and figure out what happened there.
Joe, the curb happened. The right rear. You're going to see here, he's going to hit the curb. The right rear is going to hit the curb. It's going to throw the car spinning. He hit it so hard, he popped the motor, Joe. And that took a pit.
That's got to be disappointing for Andy after he managed to survive that scary moment down the Dariohoa. It didn't look like from another angle that he actually touched that outside curb. It looks like maybe just lost it on entry up to Oudenauer Forest here.
Wow, what a tough end for him after already avoiding disaster once, and then he has that happen.
Well, Villi Rolla has survived it all so far, and that puts him into second. Cesar Teyron, you mentioned, has jumped up to third, with Pears now wrecking out. Lars Hung, who we haven't really shown a whole lot of, has put himself into fourth in these Audis.
Yeah, and I think that would be a lot better result than Lars was given yesterday. He beat the car up pretty good. But I definitely got to say, just a real stark comparison today from yesterday. You know, we talked about attrition, and I bragged how there wasn't a whole lot of it. Much different case today. Hung, though, oh boy, Hung had Christopher Matherly coming up on him. Matherly trying to judge how to get around that Nissan, runs it off course, and I think he managed to avoid hitting the wall.
I think sometimes the Nissans aren't aware of the lack of grip that these Audis have when trying to force a too-wide situation. Thankfully, Matherly did not. He got out of it quick enough. And of the cars left running, if I'm counting right here, because we have some that are still trying to catch up to the prototype sitting in the pits. I believe we have 24 out of 33 that began.
Yeah, I think that seems about right, Joe.
We've jumped back up to the lead in the prototypes, where Olenek is flashing a little bit on my screen. Could be having a slight connection problem. He's hanging back at about a second behind the Finn.
Last track in the world you want to be blinking at.
Really. There is nowhere to hide if you try and go side by side. As they come back up the hill through Bergwerks, now into Kesselchen. He's caught him so quickly, I would have thought that Rob would have dispensed it with him quickly as well, but Littlewater, whatever was causing him issues, seems to have cleared itself up.
You know, I've got to be honest with you, Joe. We're winding things down here, and I don't know if Joni Hagner's going to have to worry about getting lapped by the GTP field.
Yes, Hagner is currently on the Dottinger Hohe. They've got 2 laps to go. Tapani is only just now getting to the carousel. Yeah, he is not even going to be anywhere near him. Now, he does have Don Good just up ahead of him on the track, so they will have to try and work their way through the Audis. And this could be the opportunity that Olenek needs. Whoa, talk about threading the needle there. Brave move from the Finn, and that does allow Olenek to catch him by about half a second, but it is not enough for him to have a go. Coming over the top of the mountain here, through Brunchen now, past all the RVs. They're going to get the white flag next time by. If Olenek is going to do something, he's got to do something soon.
No time to wait.
Incredibly, these cars still running just a hair over 6-minute laps.
Got a very strong field start this race, Joe. In the GTO class, Joni Hagner has just really, we're closing in on 40 seconds ahead of his competition. He is just putting on a clinic here at the ring today.
Certainly was helped along by the incidents between Pears and Laughter. That slowed them up. Rolla having to brake hard to try and stay out of the cars tumbling in front of him. In fact, Rolla still has that gap at about 3.5 seconds over Tyrone. So he is by no means out of the wood. If he has a mistake, Tyrone could pounce. Well, back up to the leaders, yes. As they come down the Dottinger Hohe. I would have thought that the draft would have been enough to maybe bring Olenek in. He's just holding at 0.3 back, closing foot by foot, but they've run out of track. White flag is just ready to wave. Around that final corner, and plunging back down once more, they go. In all this excitement, there really is no battle in the GTOs. Hagner leads the way. Closest we've got is for that second spot with Roland and Tyrone. If they get close, we'll go over there. But other than that, everybody is 13 seconds apart or farther behind them. Audis seem to have had more trouble fighting the track than each other.
Yeah, that's true.
So we stay on board with Olenek here. They come over Flugplatz. Cars stay planted in the Nissans. A lot more downforce. A lot easier cornering these cars. Holding at that 1 second behind.
I wonder where Olenek is going to try and make this move here. It's got to get to him, but let's face it, one turn is all it takes.
Well, one piece of traffic as they work their way past Andrew Backey, who's come back to the track to continue. He dutifully got out of the way in Ehrenberg. Their next bit of traffic looks to be a long ways away. Hideki Koivisto would be the next Audi, so I don't think they're going to be able to catch him because he is actually heading up into hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, miss. As I say that, there is Christopher Matherly who's moving a little bit slow. I think he's dealing with some damage. Now Tapani Lindaluoto, our leader, coming up to miss, hit, miss. Nice and tidy through that fast corner. Takes it all the way out to the edge of the track. Then braking for Defense Valley.
It's just blazing speed around here in that Nissan. Just always on the edge, Joe.
Amazes me the... Oh, and Ronnie Nunez from third is going to change the podium here potentially. I think he managed to stay out of the wall. This is out of Defense Valley.
No, he didn't stay out of it, unfortunately, Joe.
A little bit too quick on the power, sends him into the curb, loses control. Straight into the Armco he goes. However, Kim Eriksson, only 5 seconds back, was not close enough to get by. If Nunez isn't too damaged, he could limp it home. And you see Eriksson giving chase, having to deal with more Audi traffic. Up ahead, Lindaluoto is going to indeed catch the traffic of Christopher Matherly. Let's see if he gets out of the way. Could cause a problem for the Finn. He goes completely off course, lets them through. Nicely done. Still holding it 1 second between the New England driver of Rob Olenek and the Finnish driver of Tapani Lindaluoto. At the Nürburgring, it's not always about who is the fastest, but who can simply survive to the end. Slightly the case with Tapani, as Richie fell away when he could have challenged him. But even still, Lindaluoto has been running a lightning pace around this track.
Joe, oh, I'm sorry, but go ahead.
I was going to say he's rebuffed the efforts of Olenek despite running him down, withstood the pressure. He only has less than half a lap to go here.
Joni Hagner going to come across the start-finish line and take the white flag. One more trip around for the number 2.
Oh, and here they're going to come up on Hideki Koivisto and at a really bad spot here. Wow, great observance by Hideki to whip that car over to the left side out of the racing line. Just lets them through with perfect timing. Olenek has cut it down to half a second. They're into Swallowtail. Can he get within the draft? This could be a fight to the line. This is not over yet. Olenek looking strong through the mini carousel. Keeps him within touch. Now up through Gallows Hill. This is the important run, Sean.
Go get him, Rob. Go get him, baby.
Tapani moves to the right, trying to break the draft. Olenek only 4/10 back, starting to reel him in. It's going to be now or never. The finish line is looming. 7 laps around the green hell. Olenek closing. They're coming up to Antonius Beach. Through the kink. He's running out of time. How brave is he? Is he going to stick his nose in? Not quite close enough as they break for Hohenron. Now up to turn 13. All he has to do is be smooth on the power. Tapani Luoto crosses the line just barely ahead and takes the win at the ring.
And the battle for the podium. Kim Erickson gets around the damaged Nissan of Ronnie Nunez on the dot in your hole. And it's going to allow Erickson, as long as he can get through here clean, to come across in third and complete the podium for the Nissans, Joe.
Nunez has got to be kicking himself knowing that that damage was the deciding factor on a podium. Back in the Audis, Hagner still has half a lap to go. Rolla, 42 seconds behind, was able to start his final lap as well. They're going to be able to do all 7 laps. Cesar Terone, last car on the podium, is going to. And Koivisto is going to be the first car to be a lap down, only complete 6 laps. Lars Hung, the last one on the lead lap of the Audi. So only 4 Audis will complete all 7 laps.
Wow. I wouldn't have bet that, Joe.
I'm honestly impressed that 4 of them did finish on the lead lap.
Well, Hagner's still in command. Still a lot of track left to get around. Yeah, Ruola, Terone, got to keep digging back there.
There was a bit of disappointment in the booth when we found out that Muscola wasn't going to be able to bring the Danger Kitty car out for today's broadcasted race. And Hagner, however, I think has no such disappointment. He has managed to stomp the field.
Well, the Toyota-sponsored Audi has been very fast, sir.
Trying to make out what it says on the back of that rear bumper.
Technology on a fast track.
Ah, there we go. Wonder if that was Toyota's old slogan back in '89. Also have a few of the Audis finishing up. Lur Hughes completes his race on the lead lap. So does Francesco Roca. Actually, did Roca have some problems just now? No, he's just going very slowly, it seems.
Well, Ville Ruolo's done a good job of keeping a distance between him and Cesar Terone. Again, though, I can't compliment Cesar Terone enough for the work he's put in here on this track today. He was steady, and just as steady as he needed to be. It's going to help him get a podium finish if he could just finish out this lap. Lars Hung, another driver, did a good job of hanging around.
All 4 of them proving with the ring sometimes you need to worry about the car more than you do your pace. As we watch Hagner slide that 4-wheel drive over the ice curb down into Flansgarden. With 46 seconds of a lead. There's no need to push whatsoever. Can stay off those curbs all he wants. Through the Beloff S's up towards Swallowtail, braking hard for the right-hander. There's a fast car in a straight line, not as fast around the corners. Starting to see the end in sight now as he hits Gallows Hill.
Well, Joe, we had 2 pro drivers in this race today. Tapani was one of them. He won his class, and Yoni the other.
Both classes won by Finns with black stripes on their cars. The stereotype holds true. Just not much you can do to topple the ice-cold Finns, especially when it comes to a terrifying track like this one.
Put a little snow up there on top of the mountain. We might have seen a finish flick.
Well, he could still do that. He's got four-wheel drive on this car if he
True.
wants to try and drift it, do this thing with style.
Tried to right there.
Yeah, he's trying. He's attempting it.
He's listening. He's listening to the
he
broadcast.
Might be. There he goes. All right. As Yoni Hagner drifts it to the line, he's going to take the win here in the Audis. Rolla is safely ahead of the lead of Tyrone, so he's going to get second. Tyrone's going to take the final spot on the podium.
Now,
with that, we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the official results as well as driver interviews, and on the screen we'll have all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to the ring. We just watched round one, impressively, where they decided to really start things with a bang here in the iRacing Kamel GT series. It took on the most difficult track on the service. In the end, it was Tapani Linuluoto who took the overall win. He had to hold off Rob Olenek. He gave him a run for his money, but unfortunately, those last few laps did not have the pace to try and overtake him. Olenek was second. Ericsson gets a surprise third after Ronnie Nunez crashes on the last lap, gets enough damage that he loses out with less than a mile to go. Nunez, of course, finishes fourth. Keith Ritchie, a recovery drive of sorts. First lap caused him damage. He suffered through the entire race and still manages a top five. John Hill behind him taking a sixth, with Antivisas coming home in seventh. Lur Hughes bit back and forth. There were times where he looked like he might be able to gain positions by consistency, but himself had trouble and mistakes. He'll finish in eighth position. Francesco Rocca finishes as the last of the Nissans on the lead lap and comes home in ninth. And then we get to the winner in the Audis, and that would be Yoni Hagner. Sean?
Okay, now we'll go down to 11th, and that's going to be the second place GTO of Vili Ruola. 12th going to go to Cesar Tedron. He completes the podium in the Audi GTOs. Lars Hung will finish 13th overall. Zinyan Chai will finish 14th. 15th going to go to Deki Guevizzo. Don, tell me something good. 16th place for him, 6th in class. Philip In and Around the Lake will finish 17th. 7th in class. Marcelo Aiello with 18th place finish today. Jamie Hall, that Nissan back there, found trouble today, and he will finish 19th, 11th in class. Ben Laughter rounding out your top 20, 9th in class.
Andy Pears, unfortunately, running into some severe problems and raising the ire of Laughter, finishing 21st overall. Andy Bell behind him in 22nd. Then you've got George Gruber in 23rd. These are mostly cars that DNF'd or barely was able to get back out on track towards the end. Backey finishing in 24th, seeing the checkered flag. We jump over to the Nissans. Jerry Fairkolb coming home in 25th. Clayton McLeod behind him in 26th, trying to get his car back out to complete the last couple laps. Christopher Matherly limped it home 3 laps down, finishing 27th overall. John Keefe behind him in 28th. And then we go back to the Audis with Mitch Carr in 29th, Yuko Lascella 30th. And these are cars that definitely DNF'd. Frederick Palver in 31st. Nicholas Mukanos in the Nissans 32nd. The last car in the field, Gordon Anderson, trails it home in 33rd. Now, let's go to our winner overall, Tapani Linuluoto, who at first was looking like he had stretched out himself a good lead and then got caught by Olenek. Tapani, we saw you go off course a little bit late in one of the laps. Did that cause damage to the car and slow you?
No, it was just fine. I lost a couple of seconds there. It was some kind of brain fade during the braking. That just went too fast into the corner and bounced around a little on the grass, but that was fine otherwise.
We thought that maybe Rob didn't have anything for you on that last lap, even though he's holding within about a second. And then you hit the Dodinger Hoa. Were you nervous at all that he would catch you?
Well, I knew that I had a less downforce and I was much faster on the straights, so I wasn't that worried, except if something unfortunate would happen at some point. It was really difficult. I was struggling with my rear grip towards the end, and I had to take it really carefully in a lot of places.
There was a bit of talk on the forums about iRacing setting the qualifying as not consistent weather, and obviously you got a little bit lucky with a cool weather qualifying that helped you get a great time. Do you think that affected your races this week, putting you mostly on the pole, or do you think things would have wound up the same regardless?
Well, I think I would have been in top 3 anyway, so running with the same wing, you can pass on the long straight, so it's not that important, but it's kind of important, and I was running low wing, so the pole was pretty good for me.
So obviously a little bit inconsequential. You certainly showed everybody how to get to the checkered flag first today. Congratulations on the win. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers, guys.
That was Linda Luoto, our winner here in the iRacing Camel GT Series for the GTP class. We've also got the winner in the GTO class. Sean is going to talk to Yoni Hagner.
Yoni, my first question is, were you listening to us there at the end?
No.
Okay, because we called for the finish flick, and it looked like he gave it to us there at the last turn. Congratulations, man. Great race.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy on my performance. Managed to run all laps within 6/10, but is pretty good in Nordschleife. Except the last one was a bit drifting.
Yeah. We saw what you were doing there. It was all in fun. It was a really great race for you. I mean, did you ever feel like you were in trouble? Did you have one of those moments where you maybe got a little scared?
Well, I was like driving 99% the whole race, so there was not big situations, but this track is always a bit risky to run.
Yeah, definitely risky, and always risky when you have that safety rating and that iRacing rating on the line. But you were the class of the field, obviously, today in the GTO class. You almost made it look easy at times, but I think you just said it. This track is never easy, is it?
No, it's not. I'm quite sweaty now.
we're sweaty just watching you get around here. Congratulations on another great victory here, and will we see you next week? You planning to be back with us?
Well, I don't know Snetterton, so I don't think I'm coming. Not really sure if I'm bored.
If you're bored, okay. Well, you've got a great start to the season, and a championship is in your sights. If you can just get back on the track with us next week, we hope to see you then.
Yep.
All right, and congratulations to Joni Hagner. A great run by him. Joe, I think we've got one more guest who'd like to talk to us today, Rob Olenek.
Yeah, second place finisher in the GTPs. Now, Rob, Tapani told us about how he was running a pretty low wing, and he felt like that was a smart decision to allow him to pass. I saw that you mentioned you were running, I believe it was 7 wing. Do you regret that decision?
Not really. I think that I'm just much more comfortable driving the car on this track with the higher wing setting. I was, I'm really happy with my finish. I mean, to get even that close to Tapani by the end of the race is pretty damn good for me. But I'm sure if I ran a 6 or a 5, I wouldn't even be close to second place.
We were discussing a little bit about how the previous race we were supposed to broadcast, but couldn't yesterday, was at complete odds and much cleaner than this one. Were you surprised to see things switch around that drastically and so many cars retire today?
Not at all here. This track is so stressful to drive. I mean, one little mistake and your race is done, or you got major aero damage and you have no speed on the straights. It doesn't surprise me at all. I was worried the last 3 laps it was going to happen to me somewhere.
I feel you on that one. Every time I've driven the ring, it's just a constant nightmare. Now, next week we've got Snetterton, and it tends to divide people as to whether it's a fun track or a boring track. What are your thoughts on this newest circuit to iRacing?
From what I read on the forums, it sounded like it wasn't going to be that good, but I drove the new Ferrari there, and I like the track a lot. I haven't got the Nissan out there yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It seems like a fun track.
Yeah, I was surprised myself when I drove it. It looked boring on the surface to me as well, and wound up having way more fun than I expected. But that Minolta Nissan has come home with a podium, and we wish you the best for next week as well.
All right, thanks, guys. See you next week.
As Rob Olenek, who takes home second today. We're going to close up, though. Before we do, we want to thank, of course, the Kamel GT community for coming together and bringing us back for yet another season. I love calling these old retro cars, and a big thanks to Rob Olenek and Andrew Backey for helping organize and bring this thing to air and also keep track of the VCR points. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. The next race, as we mentioned, we're going over to England. We're going to Snetterton, the new track here on iRacing. That'll be Saturday, September 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're coming to joining us for the first time today, remember, next week it's going to be at our normal time on a Saturday, not a Sunday. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.